I never thought I'd be writing this, but sometimes life throws you curveballs you never see coming. For the longest time, I thought my family had my back no matter what. We weren't perfect, but we were close, or so I thought. Little did I know that my world would turn upside down because of the two people I trusted the most. It all started with my bachelorette party. I was getting married to Matt, the man I thought was the love of my life. We'd been together for 5 years, and he was everything I ever wanted. We had our ups and downs, but what couple doesn't? I was excited to marry him and start our life together. My sister, Emma, was my maid of honor. She was always the life of the party, and I thought it would be fun to have her organize the bachelorette party. I never imagined that decision would lead to the worst night of my life. The night started off great. Emma had rented out a private room in a nice bar downtown. There were about 10 of us, mostly my close friends and a few of Emma's friends who I'd gotten to know over the years. The drinks were flowing, the music was loud, and everyone was having a good time. I remember feeling so happy and excited. My wedding was just a week away, and I couldn't wait to marry Matt. Around midnight, things started to get a little hazy. I'm not a heavy drinker, so I was trying to pace myself, but Emma kept handing me shots. "Come on, it's your last night of freedom," she laughed, pushing another shot glass into my hand. I didn't want to be a party pooper, so I went along with it. At some point, I realized I hadn't seen Matt in a while. He'd shown up earlier in the night to surprise me with a quick visit, which I thought was sweet. But then he disappeared, and I hadn't seen him since. I assumed he'd gone home, so I didn't think much of it. As the night went on, I started to feel really drunk. I wasn't used to drinking so much, and I could barely keep my eyes open. Emma noticed and suggested we go back to the hotel room we'd rented for the night. I was relieved to get out of the noisy bar, so I agreed. When we got to the hotel, I stumbled into the room and collapsed on the bed. I don't remember much after that, but I do remember Emma saying she was going to get some ice for my head because I was feeling dizzy. I must have passed out because the next thing I remember was waking up to the sound of giggling. My head was pounding, and the room was spinning. I opened my eyes and saw Emma standing at the foot of the bed, laughing. But she wasn't alone. My heart dropped when I realized that Matt was standing there too, looking just as drunk as I felt. "What's going on?" I mumbled, trying to sit up. My vision was blurry, and I could barely keep my eyes open. "Oh, nothing," Emma said with a smirk. "Just having a little fun." I felt a wave of nausea wash over me, and I tried to stand up, but my legs wouldn't cooperate. I fell back onto the bed, feeling helpless and confused. I wanted to ask more questions, but my brain was too foggy to form coherent thoughts. The last thing I remember before passing out again was the sound of Matt's voice, low and slurred, saying something I couldn't make out. When I woke up the next morning, I felt like I'd been hit by a truck. My head was throbbing, and my mouth was dry as sandpaper. I slowly sat up, trying to piece together the events of the night before. The room was a mess, with empty bottles and discarded clothes everywhere. Emma was passed out on the couch, snoring softly. Matt was nowhere to be seen. My stomach churned as memories from the night before started to come back to me. I had a sinking feeling that something was very, very wrong. It took me a few minutes to gather the strength to get out of bed. I stumbled to the bathroom, splashed some cold water on my face, and stared at my reflection in the mirror. My makeup was smeared, and my eyes were bloodshot. I looked like a mess, but that was the least of my worries. I walked back into the room and nudged Emma awake. She groaned and rolled over, mumbling something incoherent. I nudged her again, harder this time. "Emma, wake up," I said, my voice shaking. "What happened last night?" Emma blinked up at me, still half asleep. "Huh? What do you mean?" "Matt was here," I said, my voice growing more frantic. "I remember seeing him." "What happened after I passed out?" Emma sat up and rubbed her eyes, looking confused. "I don't know. I don't remember much either. We were all pretty drunk." Did something happen between you two?" I asked, dreading the answer. I couldn't shake the feeling that something terrible had happened. Emma's eyes widened, and she shook her head quickly. "No, of course not. Why would you even think that?" I wanted to believe her, but something in her voice didn't sit right with me. I felt sick to my stomach, but I couldn't accuse her of something so horrible without proof. I decided to let it go, at least for the moment. Later that day, I called Matt. I needed to hear his side of the story, but when I asked him what had happened after he left the bar, he was evasive. "I was really drunk, babe," he said. "I don't remember much. I think I just went home." I wanted to believe him, too, but the nagging feeling in the back of my mind wouldn't go away. Something wasn't adding up. Over the next few days, I tried to push my doubts aside and focus on the wedding. I was stressed out and emotional, but I kept telling myself that it was just pre-wedding jitters. But then, 2 days before the wedding, everything came crashing down. I was at my parents' house, going over some last-minute details with my mom, when Emma came into the room, looking pale and nervous. "Can I talk to you?" she asked, glancing at my mom. "Alone?" My heart skipped a beat. I had a feeling I knew what she was going to say, but I wasn't prepared for it. "Sure," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. We went into the living room, and Emma closed the door behind her. She looked like she was about to cry. "I have to tell you something," she said, her voice trembling. My stomach dropped. "What is it?" She took a deep breath. "That night, at the Bachelorette party, something happened. I don't know how it happened, but Matt and I, we slept together. It felt like the floor had been ripped out from under me." I stared at her, unable to process what she was saying. "What?" I whispered, my voice barely audible. "I'm so sorry," Emma said, tears streaming down her face. "I was drunk, and he was drunk, and I don't even know how it happened. But it did. I'm so sorry." I couldn't breathe. It felt like my chest was being crushed under 1,000 pounds of pressure. "How could you do this to me?" I managed to choke out. "You're my sister. How could you sleep with my fiancé?" "I didn't mean to," she sobbed. "I don't know what happened. I was so drunk, and he was there, and I don't know. I'm sorry." I felt like I was going to throw up. I wanted to scream, to hit something, to make the pain go away. But all I could do was stand there, numb and broken. "I can't believe this," I said, my voice trembling. "I trusted you. I trusted both of you. How could you do this to me?" Emma didn't have an answer. She just kept crying, mumbling apologies that meant nothing to me. I couldn't stand to look at her anymore. I turned and walked out of the room, slamming the door behind me. I ran up to my old bedroom and collapsed on the bed, sobbing uncontrollably. My whole world had just fallen apart, and I didn't know how to pick up the pieces. I don't know how long I stayed in my room, crying. It felt like hours. Eventually, my mom came in, looking worried. "What's going on, sweetie?" she asked, sitting down on the bed next to me. I couldn't even look at her. "Emma slept with Matt," I whispered, my voice hoarse from crying. "At my bachelorette party. They slept together." My mom's eyes widened in shock. "What? Are you sure?" "She just told me," I said, wiping my tears away. She admitted it. My mom looked stunned, but instead of comforting me, she said something I never expected. "Oh, honey, I'm sure it wasn't her fault. They were both drunk. People make mistakes when they're drunk." I stared at her in disbelief. "Are you serious? She slept with my fiancé. How can you defend her?" "I'm not defending her," my mom said quickly. "I'm just saying, maybe it wasn't entirely her fault. She wouldn't have done it if she was sober." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. My own mother was trying to excuse what Emma had done. "And what about Matt?" I asked, my voice shaking with anger. "Are you going to defend him too?" My mom hesitated. "Well, I don't know. Maybe you should talk to him before you make any decisions. He loves you, sweetie. He wouldn't do something like this on purpose." I felt like I was going insane. How could my own mother be taking their side? "I can't believe you're saying this," I said, my voice breaking. "I thought you'd be on my side." "I am on your side," my mom insisted. "But I also know that people make mistakes. Maybe you can work through this. Don't throw away your relationship over one mistake." "One mistake?" I repeated, feeling the anger boiling up inside me. "This isn't just some little mistake. They betrayed me. How can you just brush it off like it's nothing?" "I'm not brushing it off," my mom said, looking hurt. "I'm just trying to help you see the bigger picture. You've been with Matt for 5 years. Are you really going to end things over this?" I couldn't listen to her anymore. I stood up, my whole body shaking with rage. "I can't do this right now," I said, heading for the door. "I need to get out of here." I grabbed my keys and left the house, not even sure where I was going. I just needed to get away from my family, away from the people who were supposed to love and support me, but were instead trying to justify the unforgivable. I spent the next few hours driving around aimlessly, trying to process everything that had happened. I couldn't stop replaying Emma's confession in my head, and every time I thought about it, the pain was unbearable. But as the hours passed, the pain started to turn into something else, anger. How could they do this to me? How could they betray me like this and then expect me to just forgive and forget? And how could my own family take their side? The more I thought about it, the angrier I got. I was done being the victim. If they thought they could walk all over me and get away with it, they were sorely mistaken. I decided right then and there that I was going to get revenge. They'd hurt me in the worst possible way, and they were going to pay for it. The first thing I did was call off the wedding. I texted Matt, telling him it was over and that I never wanted to see him again. He tried to call me, but I ignored his calls. I didn't want to hear his excuses or his apologies. He was dead to me. Next, I called the wedding venue, the caterers, the florist, everyone involved in the wedding, and told them it was cancelled. I didn't care about the money we'd lose. The wedding was off, and that was final. Then, I decided to confront my family. I wasn't going to let them get away with taking Emma's side. They needed to know just how much they'd hurt me. I drove back to my parents' house, my anger giving me the strength to face them. When I walked in, they were all sitting in the living room, my mom, my dad, and Emma. They looked up when I entered, and I could see the guilt written all over their faces. I cancelled the wedding, I said coldly, crossing my arms over my chest. It's over. Matt and I are done. My mom looked upset, but she didn't say anything. My dad just sighed and shook his head. Are you sure that's what you want? He asked, his voice gentle. Of course it is, I snapped. He cheated on me with my own sister. How could I ever marry him after that? Emma started to cry again, but I didn't feel any sympathy for her. I'm so sorry, she sobbed. I didn't mean for any of this to happen. Please don't hate me. I don't hate you, I said, my voice icy. But I don't want anything to do with you either. You're not my sister anymore. Emma looked like she'd been slapped. Please, don't say that, she begged. I made a mistake, but I still love you. We're family. Not anymore, I said firmly. You made your choice when you slept with Matt. Now you have to live with the consequences. I turned to my parents, who were both looking devastated. And as for you too, I can't believe you're defending her. She betrayed me in the worst way possible, and you're trying to make excuses for her. I thought you loved me, but clearly, I was wrong. My mom started to cry, and my dad looked away, unable to meet my gaze. We do love you, my mom said through her tears. We just don't want to see you throw away your happiness over a mistake. This isn't about my happiness, I said, my voice rising. This is about what's right and wrong. And what they did was wrong. If you can't see that, then I don't know what to say to you. I turned and walked out of the house, slamming the door behind me. I felt a strange sense of relief as I left. I'd said what I needed to say, and now I could move on. But I wasn't done yet. My revenge wasn't complete. There was one more thing I needed to do. A few days after canceling the wedding, I decided to take things one step further. I wasn't just going to walk away and let them think they'd won. No, I was going to make sure everyone knew what they'd done. I logged onto social media and posted a long, detailed account of what had happened. I didn't hold back, I named names, I included every sordid detail, and I made sure everyone knew exactly what kind of people they were. The post went viral within hours. People were shocked and disgusted by what Emma and Matt had done. My inbox was flooded with messages of support from friends and strangers alike. I felt a sense of vindication as I watched the fallout unfold. But the real satisfaction came when I found out that Emma had lost her job. Apparently, her boss had seen my post and decided that someone with such poor judgment had no place in their company. She was fired the next day. Matt didn't fare much better. Word spread quickly, and soon everyone in our social circle knew what he'd done. He became a pariah, and I heard through the grapevine that he'd lost a lot of business because of it. I knew I should feel guilty for ruining their lives, but I didn't. They'd ruined mine first, and all I did was give them a taste of their own medicine. In the end, I moved on with my life. I cut all ties with my family, moved to a new city, and started fresh. It wasn't easy, but I knew it was the right thing to do. They'd shown me who they really were, and I wasn't going to waste any more of my time on people who didn't deserve it. As for Emma and Matt, I heard they ended up together. I guess they figured they might as well, after everything that happened. But I didn't care. I was done with them, and I was done with the past. I'd gotten my revenge, and it felt good. But more importantly, I'd learned a valuable lesson. Trust is fragile, and once it's broken, it can never be fully repaired. I'd never make the same mistake again. And that's the story of how my sister cheated with my fiancé at my bachelorette party, how my family took her side, and how I got my revenge. It wasn't easy, and it wasn't pretty, but in the end, I came out stronger. And that's all that matters.